It's funny. Muhammad Ali passes away, and it's brought back all these memories. And let me speak about it a little bit personally. I decided in '92 that it would be nice to have a conference of other academics, sports historians, to talk about Ali's importance, his place in America. And I put together this thing. I was teaching at Miami University in Ohio then, and several good people offered to come. Robert Lipsyte from the New York Times, the sports reporter, and several others. And it's a long story, but I contacted Muhammad Ali's friend, Howard Bingham, and next thing I know, Ali and Bingham are coming to this conference, a bunch of academic geeks, and there's Muhammad Ali in the middle of it with his friend Howard Bingham. So we did this academic conference, and Ali was there for 2 days. And it's just such as it's been his death, of course, has just brought back this flood of memories of his graciousness, his humor. He was just such an incredible man. And the book came out of it. I think that's the smallest part of it. It was, I mean, here were a bunch of middle-aged men at this conference, and we were just starstruck by this man.
So university academic geeks, they were still starstruck by him too. I mean, everybody reacts to him the same way.
Yes. Oh God, yes. He was just such an incredible, such a big personality, and even by 1992, he had lost a step. Certainly, he had some of that tremor he was going to have, but he still spoke clearly. He still had such a clear wit and such a sense of humor. He was joking with us and doing magic tricks. And he and Howard Bingham, who's also such a gracious man. So in the middle of an academic conference where we're boring each other to death, here was this great man. And it's also brought back. Let me just say, I've been thinking lately about how if I had to give a lecture and try to explain to 18-year-old kids who this man was, how could I even start? His story is so complex and so there's just so much going on. If you think about from the time he wins the Olympic gold medal, or even before then, growing up in Louisville, to becoming champ in 1964, to the Vietnam War and being drafted and refusing to go, being against the war. And then being reinstated by athletic commissions, by the Supreme Court, fighting again, reclaiming his title, 3-time heavyweight title holder. Nobody's ever done that. There's just so much of the story, and you tell that, and you have to explain things like the Cold War, the Vietnam War, and you haven't begun to even talk about this man's personality, this big, amazing, charismatic personality.
And the amazing work he did later in life while he's fighting Parkinson's, while he's out of the spotlight, and yet behind the scenes, and I think we'll probably end up reading a lot more about this in coming days, behind the scenes he was still a major civil rights figure.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he was just a symbol of so much, and not just a symbol. Symbols don't do anything themselves. He was exactly what you say. Always active, raising money, being out there, really quite remarkable. And let's not forget, I have to say this, let's not forget, in an era of Islam bashing, this was a devout Muslim. He was a devout Muslim, and truly a remarkable spiritual man.
Elliot, you talked about trying to explain Muhammad Ali to an 18-year-old, and I sort of started the hour this morning talking about the same thing, explaining to my 10-year-old, sort of giving him context that I sort of said that, the best I could come up with was if you took Tiger Woods and LeBron James and Steph Curry and put them all together, they couldn't approach how big Muhammad Ali was. Is there anybody in professional sports these days that embodies some of the things that Muhammad Ali did in terms of taking that sports platform and making political statements and civil rights statements?
It's such a different world. The context has changed. We're not in the middle of the freedom struggle, the civil rights movement, or the Vietnam War, and that matters. And sports has changed too. There's so much at stake now in terms of salaries, and athletes are so handled. They're so handled by their agents and their publicists and so on. There's within there've been a few who've stepped forward in the Black Lives Matter movement. LeBron James was one. Actually, Derrick Rose on the Bulls early was one.
Elliot,
Where
can people find your book?
I
the
probably
People's Champ.
Amazon, or on Amazon. There's lots of good books about Ali. Tom Hauser's book on Ali is a wonderful book. David Remnick's book. There's lots of good books. But they're Amazon. Sometimes do bookstores exist anymore? I don't know.
I think there are some.
We're
running out. And Elliot, here's my most important question: is Gonzaga Hall still around up at Loyola?
Yes.
That's where I lived my freshman year back in 1985, I think it was, at Loyola. Lived in Gonzaga Hall there south of campus. Loved.
I walk by it every time I go to campus. So yes, it's still there.
I loved that part of the neighborhood. Walking back, I worked for the Loyola Phoenix, and so I would often be walking back late at night after we put the paper to bed. And I just loved that neighborhood. There was, the occasional violent situation, but it was a neighborhood just south there of the campus where everybody sort of looked out for each other.
That's really true. It's a really interesting part of town, and it's come back to campus. It's changed a lot, but it's still a fine place.
I need to get up there. Elliot Gorn, professor of American Urban History at Loyola University of Chicago. Find his book, Muhammad Ali, The People's Champ, on Amazon. You're listening to Tony Messenger, fill in for McGraw Millhaven, the Big 550 KTRS.